this sick, perverted music that is extremely sexualized. It's disgusting. Like, it doesn't need to be here. There's no place for this. Like, that stuff needs to be shamed. What's the purpose of it? It's disgusting because it leads to all of these downstream effects in society. But the more that I see this, the more that I'm more convinced that the only cure to this thing is when we look down upon that stuff. If you did not have people shaming prostitution, oh my God, there would be so many women that would be prostitutes.
Yeah.
Like, think about it. Like, we need those kind of things in society.
Beyond the perfect we discover, through our flaws we complete each other. Better than perfect we stay, through every fault we find our way.
All right, welcome back to the Better Than Perfect podcast, where every week we share with you how two imperfect people helping each other grow equals one better than perfect relationship.
And we're back.
Yeah, and so we just got a comment that we should. How has this podcast not gone nuclear? It's like the commenter could read my mind. Like,
yeah, you guys gotta help us by sharing and spreading the word. But we're gonna keep doing what we're doing. So
yeah. Well, I guess we should just jump right into the
You're just excited.
Yeah, well.
I'm excited too because we're going to call some things out that need to be called out. But.
So the topic is it's kind of a mixed bag. It's about what I would call simp culture, but desperate men is what we'll call it. But
hold on, you still have your sleep patch on your arm.
Oh God, I'm being drugged with melatonin.
I bought these sleep patches off the internet to see if they work, and they haven't stuck on very well. Except John's made it literally to now. It probably would have stayed on.
Amazing. Smells nice, but.
I didn't even notice that until now. Sorry for the interruption.
Thank you. So basically, like, simp culture. We'll discuss OnlyFans. We'll talk about Dubai and the
pay pigs.
Pay pigs. That's the word for it. Pay pigs. Gosh, yeah. We'll get into all of that stuff. So, yeah. Where do we start? I mean, maybe we can start with the OnlyFans, because I had some clip, which I should have brought it up, but there was some clip from the Whatever podcast, right, where the woman was talking about. They asked her, they're like, how many guys have paid you, or what have they paid you? I can't remember.
They asked her how many sugar daddies she had.
How many sugar daddies? Yeah, you tell it.
I mean, she said like 30. Well, once she was 19 and she said there were like 30.
She might have been fabricating some of that.
But she said that the 30 included pay pigs and things like that too. She reminded me what that phrase was. Yeah. But, and then I don't know how much they talked about after that, but they were just talking about like the sheer amount. Oh, they were talking about how much money she made. Right. And it was like, they asked her how much she got paid at one time, like the most she got paid at one time, and it was like $100,000 or something. Right. This is a 19-year-old with that much money. But also, the real concerning thing when I watched that is that this did not start happening when she legally became legal. If she's has that amount at 19.
Right. And no offense to this woman, but this woman was not a Victoria's Secret model. She was not like where you'd be like, oh, wow, she's really hot. You'd be like, she looks like an average woman.
Wait, so it's acceptable if she's a Victoria's Secret model?
No, I'm just saying, like, the reason why I'm saying it is because it's crazy that guys are paying a woman that looks like an average woman $30,000 to not even sleep with them, just because they want to, like, gift her money to get to hopefully sleep with her, or that she'll give them some kind of approval or show them a booby pic or whatever that she does.
Well, the pay pic people pay money to get degraded by women like that, to get talked down to. Yeah, that's what a pay pig is a person that pays a woman to degrade them.
That's the pay pig. Okay, so I was thinking of the Dubai, when women fly to Dubai and then the Arab guys poop on them.
I'm pretty sure a pay pig is when, because that's why they call them a pay pig. Because it's degrading to call them a pay pig.
Yeah,
and that's what they're doing.
So they want to get abused by
by
attractive women.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just crazy. It just blew my mind that, again, I hate the word simp. You hate the word simp, but this is where I use the word simp. I reserve it for these cases that guys would be so simpy.
I just feel like it's desperate, though.
Like, it is. It's desperate.
Deeply desperate.
To pay, again, no offense to her, but an average-looking woman, right? Thousands of dollars. Like, is this where we're at? That guys are that bad?
Yeah. You know what I'm going to say, and guys might not like to hear it, but it is their fault. And even OnlyFans is their fault. Because, again, you've said this in one of the episodes that, and you and I know, and these men know too, that if the tables were turned and they were these women, they'd be profiting just like these women are.
Yeah.
And so the best way to prevent these things is for men not to pay for these things.
Right.
They think it's to try to shun women into not doing OnlyFans and all those things like that. And I'm not saying that women should do OnlyFans.
Right.
That's something that's never going to be wiped off the internet and has a lot more psychological and, implications on your life that you don't even realize that you're doing, really, not as deeply as it goes. But if no one was paying for that, it would not exist.
And I agree with you 100%, right? Right? It's the same thing like in the last episode we were talking about the whole sexual marketplace and giving up sex. And it's like, if women didn't give up sex so easily, then guys would put more effort into right? So there's truth to it for sure. The issue with it though is, there's two issues with it. The biggest issue with it is that there's a certain sub-segment of the guys, right, that I would call simps reasonably so in this case, that are the ones that are paying for this, that are the one, like, because a normal guy doesn't pay a woman $10,000.
No, but he probably pays for OnlyFans.
Does a normal guy, what percentage of guys do you think actually are subscribed to OnlyFans?
80%.
You think 80% of guys? I would wonder what that number actually is. Or at least
subscribe to some sort of sexual content where they're paying at least some amount towards sexual content. A
lot of sites are free now, so like
I still think they're probably paying for premium things because sex is very important.
But it is. I would say it's only. OnlyFans is the primo thing now. So I think we could just say OnlyFans. But what percentage of guys? There's probably a lot of guys that are paying for multiple OnlyFans, right? So they're making up.
Oh yeah, because is it by person?
By
is
person.
That how you do it?
Yeah, it's like you're you
pick your porn star.
Yeah, like you subscribe to this person who puts out their content. It's like a membership. Like you're part of their membership, right? Except that
it's like if you pay more, you get to see a boob, but if you pay the most, you get to see everything or something.
So, something like that, or them doing sexual acts and it's porn. It is what it is, right? So, I guess we'll say the word corn. I'm pretty sure, at this point, I think the AI is smart enough. We know that AI is smart enough that if you say the word corn, it knows you mean porn. So you have to be really.
But it's is this episode gonna get shadow banned? I don't think
so. I think
maybe on social media.
Yeah, I think it will. I think the AI now is just looking at the context of the thing. I'm assuming, but anyway, it's not like we've gone nuclear anyway. So once we go nuclear, then we can worry about those. But yeah, I just wonder what the actual number percentage is, because maybe it is like 80%, but definitely there's a sub-segment of men that are encouraging this, that are financing these operations, or allowing a girl that's 19 years old, right? There's a lot of guys out there that are being sugar daddies to this girl, average girl who's 19 years old, right? So the problem is that ruins it for the rest of the men. You know what I mean? It's like if you're a guy,
ruins what?
Okay, so take our viewers, right? Because none of our viewers are paying for OnlyFans, right?
Right.
Right?
Right?
Hope not, right? So these guys, they're watching this and they're like, well, screw those guys who are making this culture exist, the sim culture, whatever, because they're paying for the OnlyFans, they're paying for all this stuff, they're being sugar daddies, and they're ruining it for the rest of us. Now these guys are like, all right, and rightfully so, I go out and I'm trying to date a girl, but this girl has 5 sugar daddies. She's got a Rolex, whatever, Louis Vuitton purse, because she's getting all this stuff and she thinks she's hot shit. She's just an average girl. So now, like, average dude cannot get with average girl because average girl has access to hundreds of thousands of dollars and many worshipers on
but a majority of women don't have sugar daddies, honestly. A majority of them. And you have to ask yourself, if you're going after a girl who looks like she has a sugar daddy, why are you going after her? Because she's attractive?
But this was just an average girl. That's why I pointed out the average.
Like, you can tell if you went on a date with a girl like that and her tastes and things don't really add up to her age. Because, like, how does a 19-year-old have a Louis Vuitton bag or whatever? I mean, I guess she could lie to you and be like, my parents bought it, but she's probably not going to. She's probably going to be like, I have expensive tastes and I've already been on this trip. And then that tells you all you need to know. But again, it's like, I'm not saying that the women doing these things are doing the right thing.
Right, you're right.
But it's like, we're not getting to the root of the problem, which is the people paying for it.
Right.
By trying to shame and shun the person that's benefiting from someone being freely given. That's like someone gifting you something and you, like, if it has no strings attached or if it has strings attached that you're okay with because it's like a huge gift, being like, well, why did you take that? Like, yeah, you should still morally not do that. I'm not saying that you should morally do that. Yeah. But you also have to understand, if these men are going after 19-year-olds, their frontal lobe is not developed. Right. And you cannot tell me that if you give a teenager a car and be like, well, you just got to come on some dates with me and maybe go home with me like one time and I'll give you this car. Right. That unless morals have been heavily implied into that child, and even then, they could still have heard that their whole life, but make an impulsive decision. You cannot tell me that it's that child, like still technically like a teenager. Yes, they're legal, but their frontal lobe is not developed. Right, exactly. That it's their responsibility, that they were given something by men and men are going to be like, it's her fault. Like men should be saying that it's these men's fault. Right. For giving these things to women that haven't earned it. Like, that's what they complain about. Right. But instead of going after the men that are doing this, they're going after the women. And so that's why this problem is not really getting fixed. It's getting worse because you're not cutting off the water from the source. Right, exactly. You're pouring the water into this bucket and knocking the bucket over, but then the water keeps coming into the bucket and you have to keep trying to knock down the women that are getting this thing. But there's going to be another woman that comes along to take the stuff from these guys. Yeah,
because it doesn't matter. Because exactly. Because someone's going to fulfill the thing. Because these guys are willing. They're customers. They're willing customers. Right. Yes. So I mean, some people would argue though that men are coming down on men. That's why they're calling them simps. Right. They're literally saying simp because they're calling the guys that are doing this simp. Right. I mean, that's what else do you do besides these guys? Besides shame these guys. Right.
I mean, shame is bad, but maybe they need to feel a little bit like, this isn't what we do. Like, they need men's groups to be like, no, like, you don't have to do this anymore. They need like male relationships with men that they trust being like, no, like let's work on like personal development or like going out and meeting women. Like Lana said in the last episode, like practicing getting the confidence rather than pouring their money into something that isn't going to give them anything substantial anyway.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, they need hope. They need to believe that. But it's sort of this vicious cycle that happens is because what happens is that you have women that, and even if you're not an OnlyFans as a woman, you have to realize this, is that a woman that's in her 20s, that's an average looking woman, has an inflated value of herself compared to the men. She has a higher standard for men because she knows she could make money on OnlyFans. So because women are making so much money on OnlyFans, it inflates the value of women, which seems like, oh, good, women should have a higher value of themselves. No, because they're valuing themselves too high in relation to average men. So now they don't want average men. So then these guys have a harder time. So then what do they do when they can't get women? They go to OnlyFans and they pay for women.
But I also still think that this is part a man's problem. And I'll tell you why. Because even on this podcast, you've talked about how valuable women are in their 20s.
Right.
Women now know that. Women now want to utilize that in every way possible. And so that's the double-edged sword, right? Like you're trying to help women by telling them when they have the most value. And you've even said that they have the most value as anybody at that age.
Right.
So they know that now and they're utilizing it.
Right.
But then men are upset about it.
Right.
Because they're not doing it in the right way. And I get that. They're not, settling down and getting married.
Right.
But that's also why, too, trying to convince women that their prime is like 10 years, even less than that, is not really the best message to give them either, because now they are hyper aware in some ways and trying to get everything they can. Yes, capitalize on that. They're trying to get all the money. Then they'll settle down maybe in 25, maybe at 25.
Right.
And I get that it's not working out, and I get that that's not the right way to do it. But it's because men have put such an importance on young women sexualizing themselves.
Right.
That they know that they can make the most money doing that, even if it sacrifices things in the long run.
I didn't have to tell them that. They already knew that. They already knew that being young and attractive could get them money. So, but my message is a message to them to say, don't do that, because guess what? You can make all the money in the world when you're in your 20s because you're young and hot, whatever. But you're not going to get a quality guy if you have OnlyFans on your resume.
I'm not saying you were pushing them to do that. I'm just saying that.
I'm just saying,
when you tell women that that's when they're most valuable and they're young and they're hearing that,
but they gotta listen
all the other stuff goes out the window.
You got to listen to the whole message.
That went through the ears.
Because let me tell you, if you have OnlyFans on your resume, it's going to hurt you.
Who puts that on their resume?
Unless you're going to be. I'm saying like it will be discovered. Like you cannot think, okay, I'm gonna do this, make a bunch of money, and then when I get to my 30s or whatever, I'm gonna find a hot, high value, wealthy, good man and settle down and have because he's gonna figure out that you're on OnlyFans. He's gonna figure out that you're past, or you're gonna lie to him the whole time. Good luck in that relationship. Yeah. So it's still a bad choice. But you are right that men are responsible for creating the environment, but it's also part of the nature. It's almost like the responsibility really lies in technology, that this is possible or available, because men, are you ever going to make it so that men are not, a big percentage of men are not simps? Like, I don't think that's going to happen, right?
Well, I think they'll go to robots, like we talked about in our AI one.
Yeah, that's...
But I mean, sex has always been a way to make money as a woman. I mean, like, look back to the olden days, Sure. But like you said, now you don't have to go actually have sex with men. Now you can just do stuff online and get paid for it.
Right.
So it is more rampant. But it's like, even back then, if men didn't pay for those services, they probably wouldn't exist.
Right.
And when you're not paying for those services, that's why when things like seeing like an ankle or like a woman's knee is like, whoa, I haven't seen that in a while.
But let me ask you this, because see, there is also there's also an element of the, like, I do think shaming is, I don't think as a human being, as a person, that having toxic shame yourself is a good thing, right? Obviously, having guilt is better than having shame. Like, shame is destructive. However, as a society, putting shame on certain things is a good thing, because if you look at it, like, okay, this is the issue is prostitution has been available to women forever. Can make a ton of money. If you're a good-looking woman as a prostitute, sure, you can make a ton of money, right? Okay, now there's a legal issue behind it, but it doesn't even matter. Really, it's not really enforced very much. And you can go to places even in the US, or you could go to Europe for sure. Germany, it's completely legalized, whatever. So you can make money as a prostitute. But why do most women not become prostitutes? It's because it's shamed by society, right? Whereas OnlyFans has been propped up and said, "Oh, that's great. You're making money on OnlyFans, right?" So it's made it where it is prostitution, because the OnlyFans. Let's not mince words. Like, it is literally prostitution. That's exactly what it is by definition. But it's a form of prostitution that, instead of being shamed like normal prostitution has in society, has been lifted up as a liberating thing, which it's sexual slavery. So it's actually deceitful, because if you're a woman that is involved in that, you're actually a sex slave, is what you really are, because you're in the industry, right? You're selling yourself, like you're bound to this, right? And you're being used and degraded. So what's the difference between that is that we do need that shame element, right? Again, yes, the men are the buyers, but the men have always been the buyers, and the men will always be the buyers, right? And when there was legal prostitution, the men were the buyers. But the availability of it is based on how much that particular thing is shamed. And since we don't shame it, we have it run rampant.
You're going,
you see what I'm saying?
Way in a different way, because I think overall as a society, things are getting more sexualized, not less.
Right.
And that's why you see literal kids wearing like clothes that they shouldn't be wearing. I saw a TikTok of Alex Earl, is a very popular TikTok girl.
Okay.
And she was in a video with her 12-year-old sister, like stepsister. And her stepsister was about to go to the Weekend concert, like the
band, yeah.
And some of the tops were like tops that I would wear as an adult or something.
How old
back
was
when
this
I
girl?
was 12. It was like a little corset with like
That's sick.
It was like, and then of course a lot of people, honestly, which was good to see, was like, she's 12, she needs to be a kid. Why is she wearing a top like that? Like, you know, she shouldn't even be going to a Weekend concert, like the Weekend concert, because that's not appropriate.
Right.
So a lot of the comments were like that, which was good. But there's also still those people that are like, this is normal. And like, she just wants to be like her older sister. And like, I wore worse than that. It's like, we're normalizing children dressing more provocatively younger. And then people will be like, stop sexualizing these girls.
Exactly,
but it's like, you're wearing sexualized clothing and they're not old enough to defend themselves. They're not old enough to, know what they're projecting by wearing these clothes. Because if people are honest, if women are honest, when we wear revealing clothes or we wear provocative clothes, we're projecting a certain image. And that's fine if you're an adult and that's what you want to project, because that's your prerogative. But like, it's happening younger and younger, unfortunately. And it's not the same as it used to be. Like, kids weren't wearing, like, sure, we had low-rise jeans and things like that that were still, probably not the best, but they were still full-blown jeans.
Right, exactly.
It wasn't like butt cheeks hanging out and then full corset tops or see-through or lingerie, things like that you see. And, a lot of dress codes are going away, which, sure, like, some very strict dress codes I get, like not wearing spaghetti straps or your dress has to come to your kneecaps. Like those are a little bit extreme. I'm not going to lie. But now we've gone the complete opposite. And then now people are shaming people in the wrong way. They're shaming people for trying to sexualize everything when everything has been over-sexualized. And so when you say something, people try to shame you into thinking that it's okay. And the difference is, sex is okay, and it's not a shameful thing. But projecting it in inappropriate places is wrong. Like, it is wrong. And so people, again, it's kind of like what we talked about with like the therapy terms, and we've gone completely on the other extreme, and it's messing things up, and that's where this has happened. Like, there was sexual repression. Now we're like so far in the extreme of sexual liberation that it's causing it's causing different problems at this point.
And that's where like I said, the shaming element needs to be there, unfortunately, in society, to shame people to be like, this is not appropriate, wearing this kind of stuff. But I would even argue, and we've talked about this before, that it still does apply to adults, because we live in a world where you cannot shield children from the internet. We live like, you can try as a parent, but even then they're going to get access through their friends. And it's like, even we've talked about this about the music too, right? Where it's like, okay, this sick, perverted music that is extremely sexualized. It's disgusting. Like, it doesn't need to be here. There's no place for this. Like, that stuff needs to be shamed. Like, it doesn't, well, even adults wearing like ridiculous clothing and outfits that's highly sexualized. What's the purpose of it? It's disgusting. It's not like it's normalized so much in our head that we don't realize how disgusting it is, because it leads to all of these downstream effects in society. And it's downstream, that the water that, our children drink that water. You know what I mean? It comes downstream. You're like, oh, this is for adults only. It doesn't matter. It goes down the stream and it goes into children's mouths, and they learn that stuff. And it's like, so, to go full tradcon, it's like, yeah, I think the clothing should be shamed, that it should be even adults, that you should dress appropriately. Again, this is a 180 from what I used to think, but the more that I see this, the more that I'm more convinced that, just like Lana convinced me in the last episode, that it should be 3 months before you have sex with a guy as a woman. Like, I'm getting more on the conservative, side of that, on the moral side of it, not because of religion, but because of what you see happening in society. And the only cure to this thing is when we look down upon that stuff. We didn't, like I said, with the prostitution, if you did not have people shaming prostitution, if it was not something that was considered a bad profession to be in, was a social disgrace, then, oh my God, there would be so many women that would be prostitutes.
Yeah.
Like, think about it. Like, we need those kind of things in society.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I just finished the Tantra book.
Yeah.
And a lot of what it talks about is that us as humans have really lost the core concept of what sex really is. And it's this connection and this spiritual thing. Yeah. And it's not performing, and it's not all these things. And, the outfits and the music and even the OnlyFans and things like that, it's all performative, and it's all this exaggerated, like, hypersexual things that even the root of what sex is not that at its core. Yeah. Like, we have made it this extreme version. And unfortunately, I was listening to maybe like a song that I listened to when I was like young, and it didn't have any sort of innuendos or anything in there. I'm not saying that there weren't bad songs when we were growing up. There were, but also too, you couldn't look up what they meant.
Right.
Your parents wouldn't tell you what those words mean because it wasn't appropriate.
Right.
And so, I mean, we shouldn't have been listening to it at all, but we didn't know what it was. Unlike kids today, where they have instant access to the internet. Even if you lock down the internet from your kid, they can still go on Google, and whatever pops up on the, summary, they can read. And so they're learning about all this stuff really young. Kids want to be, older. So they're trying to engage in all this stuff by like listening to the music and wearing the clothes and, trying to feel like they're older and experiencing those things, because us as a society, like you said, have allowed these extreme versions to exist. And like you said, I mean, there's always going to be, unfortunately, probably some version of prostitution or things like that. But even back in the olden days, if you wanted to see that or participate in that, you had to go to the brothel. There weren't people naked on the street being like, come in here. You know what I mean? Like, you went in the brothel, you knew where to go. Right. And it was contained in there. Yeah. And they weren't like, going around being like, let's spread this, sexual freedom and like turn everyone into brothel babes or whatever.
Exactly.
But
slaves.
So it's a delicate balance, though, because sex shouldn't be shamed.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
But it also is a private matter and should not be out in public where it doesn't belong. Because I also saw another video of this girl talking about how she was at the grocery store and this girl was wearing really skimpy outfit to the point where she like turned around to talk to somebody and her butt cheeks were on the produce. And she's like, why are your literal bare butt cheeks on the apples?
Yeah.
And who's like, how many butt cheeks have been on those apples? Like, we don't know. But the thing is,
at least put them on the peaches.
No, it's like you can't even, the fact that you go to the grocery store and you might see that, like you said, and like, what if you're there with your kids?
Right, yeah.
And then they're seeing somebody walk out like that, and then they're like, Mom, why is she not wearing clothes? And then you have to explain that, or then what if like you explain it, but then later on they're like, well, I want to show off my body, you know, like when they get older and like, you know, things like that. It's like you shouldn't be ashamed of sex and you shouldn't be ashamed of your body. You should feel confident. But being confident in both sex and your body and those things does not equal showing it to the world and expressing it to the world in that way. Like the causation does not equal the equation. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to do that in order to show the world that you're sex positive and you love your body, you're confident in your body.
Right.
Like those things should still be a private matter. And I'm not saying like, you know, be totally covered up and don't show your ankles or things like that. But it's like, there is a time and a place. Like if you're going as even like, okay, let's say parents, if you're going on a vacation, maybe just you and your husband.
Right.
And it's an adult resort or things like that. Sure, wear your like, you know, more sexy outfits because you're at an adult resort for your husband.
For your husband. That's the difference.
Yeah.
Right? It's like
in that sort of setting. But if you're going to a kids resort with your kids, you probably shouldn't be wearing a thong. Like, I mean, I get as like a biological parent, your kids have probably seen your body, but at the same time, you're exhibiting like things that your children are going to follow. You're the role model. You're the example. And so I get too that people are going to be like, well, I don't have kids and I'm going to wear my thong to the pool. But it's like, okay, do you really want to be the person that is exposing children to those sort of things and knowing how kids in society today are trying to grow up faster and faster? I mean, 8-year-olds want to have skincare routines. So you know you're gonna influence them.
And why do you even need to do it? You just need that much attention? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's also like, what is wrong with you that you're doing it in the first place? Like, I mean, honestly, like I know it's not popular to say that, but it is true. Like, why do you need to do that? Like, it is something that I think, you know, to speak to what you said, like in the past, sex itself was shamed with the kind of the Protestant type of viewpoint of like shameful, like you shouldn't enjoy sex, like sex is a taboo thing. And I don't agree with any of that. Like you said, like sex is beautiful, it's great, it's awesome. It's really designed for the confines of a marriage or serious relationship. That's where it shines. That's where it should be.
Yeah.
And we've lost sight of that. And so like shaming it outside of those confines, I think is totally fine, not shaming the sex itself. And I think that the message was mixed in the past because of the religious undertones, and it still can be because you had kids that were shamed for masturbation and things like that. And it's like, no, like now you're shaming the whole thing. You're making it seem like God doesn't like sex at all. And that's where that repression came from and the whole liberation movement. But like you said, now we've gone too far. Now we can look at it and say, okay, it's still not good. It's still not to be displayed everywhere in the public, like in the sense of like showing it off. It's great between a man and a woman in a committed relationship, especially a marriage. But we have to go to that in order to fix those problems. In fact, it's kind of funny because we saw that TikTok, I think it was, of the guy that was like, I think he was joking around. He was like, oh yeah, swimsuits. It's like, it's so weird that if you saw someone in their bra and panties, their underwear, you'd in public in the grocery store, you'd be like, oh my God, right? That's inappropriate. But you go to the beach and now you can wear even less and that's fine.
Yeah.
And what we have to realize is that seems fine and normal to us, but it's not actually. Like even the beach, the bathing suits that we wear, it's ridiculous. Like it's literally the same thing. We've just normalized it in our heads in society, and we don't shame it there, right? But it's still highly, because we're so sexualized as a society, right?
I think that's the key, is that it's sexualized, right? It's trying to sell sex in a way. Even if you're not selling it as a person, like you said, you're selling the idea that you're like ready for sex at any moment or something like that. And here's what I mean by that, because when we went to Greece for our honeymoon, we accidentally wandered onto a nude beach.
Oh, yeah.
And those people are nude, but they're not acting sexual.
Right,
you know what I mean? And like, so in America, I feel like it's not even about honoring the naked body or the human form or like how your body looks.
Right.
Because that would even come from a more spiritual and like innocent place.
Yeah, like
a more natural place.
Sure.
Because if you go to a nude beach like in another country, you'll see what I mean. Like it's not sexual. Like these people are naked.
Right. Yeah.
Which is what you should be only when you're partaking in those things or like in the shower or something. But they're like naked, but they're not like doing things on the beach to each other. They're just like hanging out. They're just talking to each other like, hey, what's up? So it's like, that's not even like the problem necessarily. It's like the clothes. Like you said, it's like the clothes are more so embodying like that sexual energy that's more of like the more performative and the more like trying to get attention. Like you said, like the skimpy little things so that people are staring at you rather than like you could just go to a nude beach and be nude if you wanted to show off your body. You don't have to wear the skimpy thing. Go to a nude beach. Right. But that's not really, if you ask somebody to be totally honest with you, and they probably won't.
Right, exactly.
That's not why they're wearing the skimpy bikini.
Right, exactly.
It's because it's also, as a woman, incredibly easy to get male attention when you sexualize yourself.
Sure, for
because that is what they go after. They go after sex. And even if you're wearing something provocative, and I'm not going to sit here and act like I haven't worn skimpy clothes. I haven't worn like see-through stuff to the club or whatever. My butt cheeks haven't been on the apples.
Right.
But I'm not going to sit here and act like I haven't done this.
Right.
But I'm also coming from a place of I have done this and I realized that that's not the way to do. And it is the cheap version. It is the easy way to get a man to be interested in you.
Sure.
But then you're also sending him mixed signals when you're like, no, I don't want that. But then you're like, you're using your sexual energy to pull him in, but you don't want to give him what he wants. Right. And like, it's, again, like I said, it's kind of the easy way out. And it's the easy way to get attention from men because as women, you know what men want.
Right.
But then women get upset when they do that. Right. And then they're like, why doesn't he like me for who I am? It's
exactly.
Like, it's like you did portray that. And so you can't even get upset with a man if he's oogling you when you're wearing sexual things because you are projecting that energy. And if you are going to do that and you don't want those advances, you have to be the type of woman to be like, no, I'm not interested in that. And I mean that he still might be confused, but you have to stand up for yourself in that instance. But really, if you want somebody like authentically for who you are and have a genuine connection, then you should keep in mind to not over-sexualize yourself because you're not really giving off that. You're giving off like, give me the attention, like here's my body, like, you know, things like that. And again, I have done the easy way out to get male attention, but that's also why I'm coming here and saying that it's not the correct way to do it. And it doesn't make you feel better. Like, because really, if you love your body so much, your validation of how you look and how your body looks should be what matters the most rather than wearing things to get other people's approval.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's, I mean, it's good. Like you said, most women will not admit that.
No, I know.
But it's true. But you know it because, you know, that's, but and there's nothing like wrong with admitting like that. It's obvious, but it's not, but now you can see why it doesn't make sense to do it. And I think that's the key thing about it. It's like if you made a movie, right? And you made the movie trailer, and the movie trailer was just a bunch of butts and boobs, right? And then someone watches the movie, and then you're like, well, what was your favorite part of the movie? What did you like? And they're like, oh yeah, all the butts and boobs. And you're like, well, what about the story? You're like, you didn't like the story? It's like, well, you advertised it as butts and boobs. That's what they came for. That's what they liked. That's what they watched. And now you're upset they didn't like the story? Like, you can't advertise advertise the thing that you want them to like, to try, you know, and that's the thing is like, I mean, and we always try to tell our daughter this because it's a hard message for young people to understand is that it doesn't matter if you're trying to attract this attention or not, but if you sexualize yourself, you're going to attract the people that's the primary thing they're going to value for, because that's the thing you advertised, right? Whether you try to or not, like, advertise the thing that you want people to like. It's just like when I'm selling my product, right? I advertise what it is. I don't advertise something that I think that they want, and then when they get in, it's totally different. Everyone would want a refund, because they'd be like, this is not what you were selling. But it's become so normalized in society, and we have been like, oh, don't shame anyone. And again, I'm not saying like shame people in a way that's like being bullying and mean to people, but when I say shame, I think what I'm talking more about is being like, oh, that's for something to not be acceptable, to disapprove of things, right? To disapprove is like, oh, I'm not encouraging that. That's disgusting. That's not, don't you have more value for yourself? Like, I don't appreciate that. Like, I don't want to see that. Like that kind of thing where if that happened, then people wouldn't, like the lady that you said in the grocery store where she's got her butt cheeks on the produce, right? If everyone in the grocery store was like, if as a society we're like, ew, no, I don't want to see that. Like, please, cover up. Or and every person that walked by said that. You think that person's going to keep on going in skimpy outfits to the grocery store? They're not going to do it. You don't have to be mean to them and bully them, but if you express the disapproval and everyone's doing that, the person's going to stop doing the behavior because it's not going to be worth it.
I think that's a good concept, but I think honestly, society is more defiant than ever. And so I think normally you'd be correct, but I'm honestly not that sure if people saying it in the grocery store to the person would stop them or not, or make them do it more, because how people act these days, and you tell somebody not to do something, or like, you're like, oh, that's not okay.
But they're sheep pretending to be different, but it's a whole flock of those sheep. The reason why they might like do it more would be because they have the support of other people that are encouraging them. If they lost that, they're not going to do it.
I think that relies a lot though on getting a lot of people on board, which like, but I do think in some ways people are getting more on board, especially with, like I said, with like the underage girls wearing and listening to things that aren't appropriate and allowing them to be children while they're still children and things like that. I think that's very important because, when they're old enough, they can go out and do whatever they want. But, as a society, adults now, if you're going to be around children in a public place or even like going to your family reunion or something, you should, in that moment, try to be responsible and a good role model. Right. Like, yes, those kids are not your responsibility, but I feel like, again, as a society, we're so individualized that we don't give a shit about people anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
I say we, but I know that you and I don't. We actually do give a shit about people. That's why we're sitting here. But like, people are so individualized that they're like, well, that's not my kids.
Right.
It's like, okay, yeah, you're right. But don't you want to still be a positive role model? Because you're going to be one either way. You're either going to be a role model of my butt cheeks are on the apples, or, looking like a nice adult walking around the store.
Let me ask you a question, though, because it's funny that you said that. That's not my kids, right? And that people will do that in front of kids because they don't care. But guess who they won't do it in front of? Your granny. You know what I'm saying? This is why. But why? Because granny is going to shame you. The grandma's going to be like, get out of here. You know what I'm saying? Like the same people that would walk around in skimpy clothing that's totally inappropriate in front of children would not walk around in front of granny and do it someone else's granny. Yeah. Because
someplace like
that. As much as like I'm saying, don't bully people, don't like be mean to people about it, but they won't do it because every granny in there is going to shame them. Yeah. Going to wave their finger and be like whatever, and they don't want to deal with it. But they'll do it in front of children. And so if you won't do it in front of grandma, you shouldn't do it in front of children. That's my rule.
Yeah. Well, if there's a place where you wouldn't do it, then it's probably not a good idea. And again, I'm not saying that if you're at like an all adults place or things where there's only adults,
right,
you can wear whatever you want. in my opinion.
For your partner is what I would say. Like,
yeah. But I mean, like, if you're single or whatever, if you want to sexualize yourself, I have no problem with that. Can. But you have to know what you're doing.
Right.
You can't act like you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
But it's different when you go into public places where now you're wearing things that aren't appropriate. I mean, people have been talking about the gym clothes and stuff that women are wearing as well,
it's getting
too.
Crazy,
like
ridiculous.
Your whole butt cheeks are on the apples and on all the equipment. So it's like, like, again, I'm not saying that women shouldn't appreciate their bodies and feel confident in their bodies, but that does not equal showing off the body in that way. Like, you can still wear even like, I don't even necessarily have a problem with crop tops. I have a problem with crop tops on young kids before they're like, you know, at an age where they understand, you know, what's going on. But I'm not saying that crop tops or whatever, like, that you can't wear form-fitting things to like show off your figure. I'm not saying those sort of things, but I'm saying that you should think about it and think about what's appropriate, not because you're living for other people, but because morally, like, you're not going to contribute to the narrative of perpetuating something that, even if you're like, oh, I'm sexually liberated, like, you are projecting that on to everyone around you when you wear it to a public place like a grocery store. And that includes kids and grannies and, you know, other impressionable people. And it's not your responsibility, but I feel like as human beings, we, again, have become so individualized and only care about ourselves. And that's not how we were wired. We were wired for community. And people will be like, oh, well, this is normal now. No, it's only normal because people have allowed it to be normal. Like you said, it's normalized. It's not normal. It's normalized.
Exactly. Well, and it's also for your own, like, even if you don't want to contribute to society, it is for your own edification as well, right? Because when you are doing those things, you are sexualizing yourself, which is to some degree degrading yourself. You are like making your value in your image, right? Or like you're getting attention for the things that you shouldn't train yourself to get attention for. That's going to harm your esteem, right? Because you're not always going to have that body. Right. You're not always going to look the way that you look. And so if your esteem is built completely on other people's validation and attention of you based on a physical attribute, what are you doing to yourself, right?
You're
so that's the thing, is it's not just, that's why, you know, it's not just like,
deeper.
It's deeper. Like all of this stuff, even the music that you're listening to or that you're creating, it's like, you know, music is very powerful. You listen to something over and over again, it is reinforcing things in your mind. Are you sending yourself a good message that is going to be helpful to your future self and who you want to be as a person? Or are you sending yourself a message that you're like, oh, I just like the sound of it? Yeah, but it's brainwashing you to sexualize yourself or to desensitize yourself against sexual violence done to other people, because a lot of the music is actual sexual violence when you really think about what's happening and what they're really saying, or degrading people, or, you know, or treating sex as a very light thing or casual thing, or treating people as casual things. You know, it's like, these are the things that we are filling our own minds with, that we're doing to ourselves and harming ourselves. So that, I mean, I think even if you have a selfish motive, fine, you know, and that's what I always try to, you know, because when I try to preach to guys on my YouTube channel and stuff, I'm always like, hey, I'm not going to give you a moralistic Bible thumping viewpoint. I'm going to give you a selfish viewpoint, because everything that I'm saying about being a good person or fixing yourself up or not doing these things or doing these things, it's all about improving yourself for yourself, because these things are destructive to you. And that's you know, it sounds like a preacher, but I have no religious affiliation. I'm just saying, like, these are common sense things that the end of the road will lead to you harming yourself by doing these things.
Right.
So.
And there's other ways to use your sexual energy. Like, you know, you don't have to wear revealing clothing and get validation from other people. Like, you know, I go to Madhouse and, you know, that's like all women using their sexual energy and together, not out like at the club, which, like, you know, a lot of people think that it's like, you know, go out to the club and like wear your revealing outfits, and like you can go to a sexy dance class and get that feminine, like, feel good energy.
Right.
and then come home and use it for your partner. Or even if you don't have a partner, like again, like in the Tantra book, you can have an intimate time even with yourself at home. Like you kind of cheapen stuff like that. And OnlyFans cheapens it. And all of these things cheapen it.
Right.
When it's sexual energy and the sexual experience is such a beautiful and sacred thing. And again, it's about connection. It's connecting with your partner. If you don't have a partner, it's connecting with yourself. Right. And you can still use that energy, and you can dress up at home in your lingerie and do whatever you want. And so like, we're not saying that you can't do these things.
Right.
We're just saying that it's a time and a place, and that has gone completely out the window. And I do think things like OnlyFans and, you know, women being paid these insane amount of money to like do the bare minimum, that these men are just giving them things, and like society trying to overcorrect the sexual repression with this sexual liberation that isn't even actually liberating. Because I genuinely don't think people genuinely feel better when they act in these extreme ways, or they're wearing these things, because in a way, you know that the attention you're getting is cheap. You know that it's not for who you are, it's for your outward appearance, like you said, and you shouldn't rely on that. Like, that's not to say that you can't embrace and have confidence and appreciate how your body looks right now, or how you look right now, your youth, or any of those things. But when you're using that as the only thing that drives you forward, that's when you create a problem. And that's when you feel empty. That's when you feel like a shell of who you actually are, because people aren't getting deep enough. They're only surface level. And again, I feel like that also kind of ties into a little bit where men, even though they are sexual, when they don't want to settle down and they don't, you know, they just want to have multiple partners and be, what would you call it? Like a bachelor or whatever. They're still not even fulfilled, because it's still surface level. Exactly. They're not getting, and they're having sex. So that just proves to you that there is a version of sex that is surface level. And that usually is the performative versions that people are used to. I mean, even in their relationships, even if they're not looking at OnlyFans or porn or any of those things, that is very performative. They don't even realize that in their own sexual lives, they're performing.
Right, exactly,
And so, I mean, I recommend reading the Tantra book. People might think it's woo-woo, but it makes a lot of sense at its core when you read the book. I don't know the author of the book, but
yeah, I can't remember her name.
It's a woman. We'll have to put that in the
It was
notes.
A name that was ambiguous, because I was like, is this a woman or a man?
I think it was a woman.
Either
she said she's a woman in the beginning of the book. But again, it's like we're kind of cheapening these experiences in our lives, and we don't even realize it. And that's why we just have to sexualize ourselves more and more, because it doesn't feel enough. We're like, well, why don't I feel good about myself? People are looking at me. They're looking at my body. My body looks good. Guys are giving me attention. Why don't I feel good? Why do I keep need to wear these things? Right,
because it's the external validation, which is it's like a pit that can never be filled. It's a never-ending pit. A bottomless pit. That's what it is, because you can never fill that filling in yourself with external validation. And it's even like, you know, just the point on what you said with the OnlyFans, because I want to bring this back to that is self-destructive to the women that are doing OnlyFans, which they might not believe it because they're getting paid and they're like, oh, well, men are paying for this. It's not really harming me. Like, I'm making a lot of money. Well, let me ask you this question, right? Would you say that if you gave a 22-year-old, let's just say, just a regular 22-year-old, $1 million, would you spoil them? Would it be harmful? Like, if you're a billionaire, would it be wise of you to just pick a random 22-year-old and give them $1 million or $2 million? Would you be like, oh, I'm enriching their life, I'm making their life better, or would you be destroying their life?
Right. Yeah.
You like, any reasonable person understands what spoiling is, and we don't spoil children. Almost every person that's for OnlyFans is probably against spoiling children. What's the point of spoiling is when you have something that's easily given to you without much effort. And I'm not saying that OnlyFans girls don't do any effort, but relative to the value which they receive, it is not much effort. It's called spoiling. and it's destructive to a person because it loses their sense of worth and their sense of hard work or work ethic or the value of putting effort into things, right? That's why we don't spoil children. We don't want them to be entitled or to take things for granted or not understand the value of money or work ethic and all of these things. And so aside from the sexual implications of doing that, of selling yourself and your body and creating all of the value that you have in yourself in something that is a sexual thing, not your actual person, right? And being used by people. Aside from those parts of it, just the monetary aspect of it alone is self-destructive to the person. It's not, it might seem like, oh, it's great, I'm making all this money. Yeah, but it's not about money. Like money doesn't solve problems. It doesn't, we don't, if we throw a bunch of money at a person, it does not make their life necessarily better, right? It could help them in certain situations, but it's more likely that money will destroy that person unless they have earned that money, unless they have created, built that up through hard work.
Yeah, it's not sustainable either.
No.
And what if you want to get out of it? That's still there, on the internet. Even if you delete your account or however OnlyFans works, people still have those images or the videos or whatever.
Yeah, they download them. Yeah.
You don't really have the security if you're building something that you can't sustain for. It's not a career when it only lasts long enough. And then the next crop of 22-year-olds comes in and, how does that make you feel as a woman? I feel like, you might be like, I got a lot of money. Like you said, wow, I made $1 million. I saved it up, whatever. But do you really feel good that you invested that time in something that you can't continue to do?
Right.
Because of how the market works and how men work. And, it's just it's not something that I think that women should even really get involved in unless they want to continue sex work long term. But again, like I said, that's hard to do.
Yeah.
Realistically, it's just hard to do. But I think that the most damaging part, again, in all of this is that it's being portrayed to younger and younger women, and it's creating more and more over-sexualization in society that people are calling normal, but it's not. Right. It's just normalized, and it's not getting better. It's getting worse. And I think as a society, we, at this point, need to take the reins, like you said, and be like, no, this isn't okay. And I have seen some of that. I'm not saying that it hasn't been happening.
No.
But I think that hopefully, like you said, the pendulum is swinging back more towards in the middle. Because we don't need to be way over here either. We need to be in the middle.
Right.
Where you do things that are appropriate where it's appropriate, and you don't do things where it's not appropriate. It's as easy as that. It's not trying to suppress people sexually. It's not trying to, make them dress in turtlenecks and long sleeves.
Right.
That's not what we're saying here. And I know it can still be misconstrued, but I hope we are making sense because when you think about it logically and you understand what we're saying, it makes sense. And it's what will help everyone, including the future generations, because they already have enough stuff that they're going to have to worry about. Let's not put them in a position where kids younger and younger are over-sexualizing themselves. And, as women, we're so afraid to be sexually assaulted and things like that. And I'm not saying what you wear causes those things to happen.
Right.
But if at younger age, they're being exposed to things like that and they're thinking about things that they shouldn't even be thinking about. Right. Now we're also creating a fear of girls being afraid to be sexually assaulted. And so we think that we're trying to prevent that from happening, because we're putting it out there we're not going to allow this to happen, or we need to stop sexual assaults from happening. But now, since kids are being sexualized at such a younger and younger age, now younger and younger kids are afraid of being sexually assaulted, where normally they were still playing with their dolls or whatever, like video games, and not worried about any of that stuff. But now it's like, if your kids are going to like a inappropriate concert and wearing inappropriate things, now you have to be even more concerned that they're going to attract the attention.
Right.
Because as an adult, you know that if you wore an outfit like that, you would attract male attention. And you think men should just know that that's not okay. And I get that. I get that you're like, men should know this is not okay. This is a man's problem. Yes, it is. But you can't control those people.
Exactly.
You can only control what your kids are wearing.
Right.
And that it's appropriate and that you're going to be there to protect them. But it's still not a good idea to allow your kids to wear these things, even if you're there to protect them, where they're still going to be oogled or potentially have people that are taking pictures of them, that you can't stop that, or things like that. And you don't know what they're going to use those pictures for. So I just wanted to bring that up because a lot of people are like, well, why are you sexualizing kids? Like, it's the same way where if you saw butts on Apple, you're not sexualizing that person. Their butt is just on an apple.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
and you're going to look at a butt that's out. Like you said, the guy said, if someone walked in their underwear, you'd be like, what the heck? It's not like you're sexualizing them. You're being like, you're barely wearing clothes.
And it's also confusing because you've got, let's say, 14, 15, 16-year-olds dressing like adult women, wearing makeup like adult women. How is even a guy supposed to know? Like, you're supposed to be a detective to, like, a guy looking at a girl cannot tell some girls if they are 19 or they're 15 or sometimes younger, because of the way that they're dressing in the makeup tutorials and all of the stuff today. Like, that's what I'm saying is, like, you can't even, even blame some guy. Now, obviously, like, assault and things like that's a totally different thing. But what I'm saying is that how would a guy even know? A guy in his 20s, how does he know that a girl is 15? He doesn't know that. Not, I mean, there's sometimes it's obvious, but the way that a lot of parents are letting their children dress, they're not even going to know. And plus, the other side to this is, because this is always the big argument, is it's like, well, women wearing skimpy clothes is not a excuse for men to assault them. 100% true, 100% agree. But also, if I am going to a poor country that has high crime, I'm not wearing bling on my hands. Now, if someone robs me, is it my fault? It's not my fault. Like, they still committed a crime. But am I stupid? Yes, I'm stupid. Because I made it more likely that someone would do something bad to me. Because I can't control that element. What I can control is being smart in those in those environments. You know what I'm saying? And so, again, it's not to say that you blame the victim. But at the same time, the victim can also be stupid and it not be their fault, but they can still be stupid. You know what I'm saying? And so if you know that an environment is such that a certain clothing would make you more likely to become a victim, and then you disregard that because you're like, I can do whatever I want, and then you become a victim, yes, you are still a victim. Yes, I still have empathy for you because no one should do that to you. But at the same time, you're stupid. And that I don't have empathy for you being stupid. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like that's the thing that I don't understand why people don't understand this, because it makes so much logical sense. But for some reason, we want to control the entire world. We want to think just because things should be a way that we can do whatever we want, and if we have consequences for them, then it's everyone else's fault but our own, because we want it to be this idealistic version that we have in our head. But it doesn't work that way. That's not reality. It's not somebody's
fault for being sexually assaulted, but like we talked about, you are going to get more attention if you're wearing revealing clothing, and then the attention can lead to boldness, because again, we talked about men. We know that men want sex. We know that is a high motivator for them. And if you're wearing sexualized clothes, it's not an invitation, but it makes men feel like you are somebody that would be open to that. And that is assuming, I'm not saying that is guaranteed, but to what you're saying is, if you're wearing sexualized clothing, you're going to get more attention. And you are potentially going to be put in that situation that you don't want to be put in because you're inviting the attention more so than if you wore just some normal clothes. And I know that sexual assault and things like that happen in normal clothes.
Sure, yeah.
And it might even be just as much as the sexualized clothes. But again, that goes back to...
No, it might not be just as much. There's no way it's just as much. Like, logically, it wouldn't make any sense.
I don't know the actual...
It doesn't logically make any sense, though. Like, let's be honest. It doesn't logically make any sense.
Well, I'm just saying because I don't know the actual, statistics. But to what you were saying about wearing jewelry in a place where it's more likely that you would be robbed because of that. You could still get robbed if you have no jewelry
For sure,
on.
you could, yeah.
So it's like you don't know what's going to happen. And I'm not saying that even dressing in normal clothes is going to save you from that happening. There's other things like being aware and things like that too. But that's why going back, where if you're going to wear those sort of clothes, you also have to be able to stand up for yourself because you are going to get more attention and you are potentially going to have men approaching you more. And they are going to have that in mind because that is the vibe that you're putting off, and you have to be able to defend yourself against those things.
Right.
So it's a big complicated web, and I'm sure that people will misunderstand what we're saying.
Of course,
here,
but it's an intentional misunderstanding, right? Because it's very clear. That's what, like I'm saying, is like full context. It's very, very clear what we're saying. And people are afraid to say what we're saying because people they intentionally misunderstand it. But enough of that. Like, this is the truth. This is the reality. Like, it's purely factual. There's like, it's not, it can be twisted, but twisting it is an intentional thing. So, I mean, I'm tired of people doing that, and then it's like, okay, well, we can't say anything about it. No, that's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. That's how you silence people because you don't like what they're saying.
We also need to say to men, though, that this is not okay.
Well, of course
because
it's not okay.
That is true, that they're the ones actually doing this action. And so we can't end this episode without talking to men directly, and that they need to know it's not okay. They need to hold their friends accountable if their friends are acting this way and be like, no, you shouldn't be doing those things. Like, I'm not saying they can't approach a woman,
right?
But they should not be sexually assaulting women or being overly pushy in a way where they're like inappropriately touching a woman.
Right.
Like, without talking to her and, figuring out if that's really the vibe that she's putting out. Because again, if a woman's putting out that vibe, but that's not what she wants, she needs to be like, no, that's not okay. I'm not saying that even if she doesn't say no, that means you can just stick your hand down her pants or whatever.
Right.
But I'm saying, though, that men also need to hold other men accountable with a lot of this stuff too, because a lot of times that is where men can stop a lot of this from happening.
But does anyone even think that is even reasonable? Are there men out there that think like sexual assault is okay, or that encouraging other men to do it is okay? The people who do it are the people that that it doesn't matter. That those are the people you have to protect yourself from. That it doesn't matter what you say; they don't care, and that's why that just like if you went to a poor country that had a high incidence of burglaries or assaults, that you should not wear flashy jewelry, because those people that are criminals, they don't care. They don't care if it's right. They don't care if it's wrong.
I agree with you,
so the
but
message is falling on the wrong
men
people.
Talk about that stuff,
sometimes,
though, and they act like, haha, guess what I did?
Yeah,
and
I guess that's true.
They do need to say something.
Yeah,
like, because then now you're responsible in some way. You're because if you know, if your friend told you what they did and you don't say anything.
Yeah, that I would agree with.
That's not okay. Because I guarantee you that there's probably a good amount of men who have men in their friend group who do sexually assault people, and they might not know about it, but they also might have heard some things that are concerning, and then they just turned a blind eye.
I guess that's possible.
So,
I guess that's possible. Yeah.
Men do need to hold other men accountable.
Yeah, I guess that's possible. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I just would never associate with anyone like that. So it's beyond my
and I mean, some
realm
of them, like you said, they
yeah.
might not talk about it, and they, so you might not know.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that if you see it as a man, even if you don't know that man and you see it happening, I feel like you should step in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you definitely hear somebody talking about it, you should say something.
For sure. Yeah.
Because if we're gonna shame women for the things that they're doing, these men that are doing the thing should 1,000% be shamed.
Not shamed, they should be prosecuted.
Right, exactly. Yeah, they should be arrested. But I'm saying though that
you should rat your friend out for sure.
If more men are like, that's not okay, that like, and even talking about it in passing, like if a guy friend makes like a crude joke that like insinuates something like that, being like, that's not cool. Why would you say that?
Yeah, that's
like
true.
Men should be doing that stuff too.
Yeah.
So that hopefully it's preventing things from getting further. Because again, it's, yes, the clothes can make you more approachable and more vulnerable to those situations, but we can't sit here and act like that men or even women, if they have the opportunity, shouldn't be telling the men that are doing these things or joking about it that this is not okay.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, somehow we went over, but we're at 69, so it's okay.
Oh my God.
I guess we could do our week thing.
Yeah, we do have one.
I
knock on wood though.
I screwed up. I don't know if I was on drugs or what it was, but I just
Were you on drugs?
No, I wasn't actually on drugs. I wish I could blame it on drugs, but I just went off on some stupid topic, social media type of topic. We won't even dig into social media topic what because it's just stupid and don't need to spark a debate through our audience. But just, I don't know, I lack of sleep. Just so I was getting upset and not acting very nice and yelling and like not to like an extreme, but like to enough where it was
to
just
choke on
to choke on the hash brown that I was eating as I breathed it in. But I guess just under a lot of stress. So I owe you an apology, which I've already given you an apology, but an on-air apology. So I apologize for my ridiculous behavior. 100% my fault. So.
I mean, it all led to, progress anyway, too, because we talked about,
some stuff
how I felt,
in
the way that you were reacting and things like that. And so it was good for that and good that I was able to tell you that because it had happened in the past a little bit as well, too. Again, it's not something that I wanted to continue in a pattern because it was really hurtful, and so I appreciate you apologizing. And I know that I had offended you with some of the things that I said, and that wasn't my intention. And I apologize for offending you as well.
Yeah. And it just made me realize that like some of the stuff that I wish is completely gone from my past, that I still have some of these defensive triggers that like I've worked on a lot of them, but I realized that like I do actually even have a problem with being wrong. Like if I do something wrong, once I start down a path, then I really don't want to be wrong because I don't want to be bad, because if I'm bad, then I will like be like severely punished for being bad. Like that still is something that I thought that like, because we've been dealing with that with other situations, and I was like, oh, but then
I've even dealt with that too. You know what I mean?
But it's still it's harder to trigger in me, right? Like, but it's still there, and but hopefully this is a good, getting rid of that as I'm observing it and seeing that I can still be that way, because I'm also to a degree embarrassed to be wrong, because I think a lot of it comes from like most of the time I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm being calm and stoic and treating everyone respectfully and being kind and loving and graceful. And so if I fall off of that at all, then I start to like, I'm like backpedaling and trying to justify it and trying to like prove that that's not what I'm doing, and the whole trap that many of us fall into. But yeah, I'm definitely susceptible.
But I think that's too kind of the wrong way to look at it, because I feel like if you look at it like, well, I'm good majority of the time, then it kind of makes it almost acceptable. Yeah. Like it is acceptable to make a mistake.
For sure, yeah.
But it was difficult because I've seen you not act the way that you acted with me with other people. Yeah. And so it's like, seeing that you're capable of it, but you're not giving me that was probably the most hurtful thing. Yeah. And that, like, I guess that's the thing is like, if you view it as like, well, I'm perfect all the other times, then it's like, that doesn't really make sense because you're perfect all the other times, but then you still don't react the same way.
Let me correct. What I meant by that is I don't mean that like it's excusable because of that. I mean, it makes it more hard when I do mess up.
You make it hard on yourself.
Exactly. That's what I was trying to.
Because you're like,
I wasn't trying to say that it's excusable because of it. I'm trying to say that it triggers in me because I'm like, now, you know, I've been doing really good and now I've messed up and now I must be a messed up person and all, you know, so then it like triggers.
Spirals.
Yeah. Whereas it's like, okay, the right answer is to be like, okay, so you've just started to mess up. Big deal. Like people mess up. Even if you've done really, really good and haven't messed up for a very long time, messing up is okay. So don't continue down this path. As soon as you recognize it, don't try and like mess up more to justify the thing that you've messed up. Just be like, okay, I messed up. Big deal. Right? So
which it is hard to do. And I think too that's still attached to ego, right?
Yeah, it is.
Because you know, recently I've been trying to work on not taking things personally because I used to take everything personally that someone said to me. And that is an ego thing as well too, you know? So I think it is, because I mean, I've been the same way, but then the second that you're like, you know what, I'm wrong, you think that someone's going to be like, see, I told you, or like shove it in your face. But really they're like, thank you for finally saying it. You know what I mean? Like it actually fixes things.
Yeah, because I texted you the other day and I was like, because I was on my call, but I was like, you know what? I'm actually completely wrong and like I'm responsible for all of this. I forgot exactly what I said, but I was like, I'm just in it. I'm just completely wrong. Whatever I was arguing or saying, it's just ridiculous. Like it was ridiculous and I'm wrong. Like
it was ridiculous to the point where I was like, do we only have arguments about things that aren't even about us?
But it's so easy. It's like when you say that, and that's the important lesson is like, if you just realize you're wrong, instead of continuing to justify it and continuing to try and entrench yourself into the position, right? If you just tell the person, you know what? I'm actually wrong. Like, I don't even know why I'm arguing with you. I'm just being stubborn and being an idiot. Then they're not going to respond negatively. They're going to be like, I'm glad you said thank you. It's over. I forgive you. Like, we don't have to have a discussion about this for 4 hours to try to get you to understand because you're still fighting it. Like, just
you're still holding
big deal.
on.
Everyone does stupid stuff. You know, I trip and fall on my face sometimes. Like, who cares? Like, now just admit it. You know, that's it. So a little taste of my own medicine because I've told people that advice before and then I tripped on my own feet. So
it happens. We all do it.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, that's it. Come check us out at betterthanperfectpod.com. You can sign up on there to get
subscribe. The newsletter.
Exactly. Well, and you'll get a new episode when the new episode comes out. It'll show up in your email, and it's fun. You know, whatever.
It's fun.
And leave us a review. Please. We're begging you, leave us a review. No, you don't have to. We don't want you to. We don't want your reviews.
Spread the word.
All right. We'll see you next time. Take care.